Hello everyone, this is pustakverma and today we are going to deal with a story from grade 12 compulsory English new course. It's the half closed eyes of the Buddha and the slowly sinking sun by Shankar Lamichhane. These two pictures also reflect how half closed eyes of Buddha looks and the setting or sinking sun. Before reading this story, we have to know about the questions mentioned in our text. Question A. What does a Nepali tourist guide think about foreign tourist? एउटा नेपाली टुरिस्ट गाइडले फरेन टुरिस्टको बारेमा के सोच्छ? A Nepali tourist guide thinks that the foreign tourists are more interested in exploring the mountaineering areas than them, as they are from different geographical strata, geographical locations. Question B. What do common Nepali people think of a fair-skinned foreigner? नेपाली पिपलहरूले फेयर स्किन्ड फरेनरको बारेमा के सोचेका हुन्छन्? The answer is a common Nepali thinks of a fair-skinned foreigner because most of the tourists are from Europe having foreign fair skins. Question C. Why do you think foreign tourists visit Nepal? The answer is I think foreign tourists visit Nepal for several purposes like is पिलिग्रिम साइट तीर्थस्थलहरू घुम्नको निम्ति हेरिटेज साइट सम्पदाहरू घुम्नको निम्ति एन्ड फर प्लेजर फर माउन्टेनियरिङ ट्रेकिङ एन्ड सो अन. Then about the author Shankar Lamichhane. Shankar Lamichhane was a Nepalese writer who introduced the stream of consciousness in Nepalese literature. It is a new set of techniques to present the literature. This stream of conscious techniques he introduced in Nepalese literature. He was born in Kathmandu but lived in Banaras with his uncle at a young age. Lamichhane was an admirer of modern American fictions and frequently mixed with foreign visitors to Nepal. His stories are heavy with symbolism. उनको स्टोरीजमा we find symbols is often lacking of conventional plot is not traditional set of plot in chronological order and is considered as one of the Nepal's foremost essayists of all times. The story is taken from Himalayan Voices and Introductions to Nepalese Literature, translated and edited by Michael Holt. The story deals with monologues of two characters. दुईजना क्यारेक्टर्सहरूको मनोवाद. एउटा टुरिस्ट गाइड in Kathmandu Valley and another is a foreign tourist. The story is different from the conventional story and instead of showing actions and events, the story records what the two characters thinks in a stream of consciousness techniques. तिनीहरूले के सोचिरहेका हुन्छन् and those things are presented by the Shankar Lamichhane in the story. Then about the characters. As we see the character story, we comes to know about the characters like the first one, the tourist, a westerner, a guest who holds aesthetic vision regarding Nepal based on his study in history, culture, and religion. Second one, the guide, a Nepalese person or a tourist guide having good knowledge about Nepalese art, culture, geography, religion, but has feeling of inferiority in comparison to the Westerners. As we go throughout the story, we come to know that the guide thinks that tourist knows many more or much more than him. The third one is the farmer's family, which is very simple in its character, faith, kindness, gratitude, and behavior. They live in a remote area, this टाढाको अथवा ठाउँमा गाउँमा बस्छन्. The fourth one is a paralyzed child, a boy who suffers from polio disorder and he can't speak properly, nor he can move his body parts, except his eyes indicating purity. His only his eyes functions, and except as his body parts doesn't, his body parts don't function. Is then about the summary. The half-closed eyes of Buddha and the slowly sinking sun. Shankar Lamichhane's The Story, The Half-Closed Eyes of the Buddha and Slowly Sinking Sun is a simple story in the form of dialogue. Dialogue ko form ma it has been presented between two characters. They were the characters, a tourist and a guide. It was published in 1991 in an anthology entitled Himalayan Boys: An Introduction to Modern Nepali Literature. The story has been set. इसको setting के गरिएको छ. Story has been set in and around the Kathmandu Valley, the capital city of Nepal. Both of the characters are presented as the narrators in the story. Both characters, the guide and even the visitors. One is Nepali guide and another is the foreign tourist. But ironically, Westerner tourist claims himself as the expert as he says, I could take you along your ancient ways. As the tourist guide says, you are my tourist guide for today, but I feel I can help guide you as well. The Nepali guide expects that he knows more about the subject at hand. उसले के आशा गरेको हुन्छ कि टुरिस्टलाई ऊभन्दा बढी नलेज छ कल्चर हिस्ट्री त्यसको बारेमा. The story opens with a beautiful, peaceful, atmospheric description of Kathmandu Valley with its scenic beauty along with its different colors of houses, blue hills and so on. Then the guest says that the East has given so many things such as Puran, यो एन्सियन्ट ग्रन्थहरू भइहाल्यो, एन्सियन्ट टुल्स, अर्नामेन्ट्स अफ आइभरी, हात्तीका दाँतहरूले बनेका गहनाहरू, म्यानुस्क्रिप्ट पाण्डुलिपि अफ पाम ट्रिज, इन्स्क्रिप्सन अन द कपर प्लेटमा कुँदिएका विभिन्न इन्स्क्रिप्सन्सहरू. एन्ड देन द गाइड्स टेल्स द स्टोरिज अफ मञ्जुश्री, जसले के गरेको थिए त, हाउ हि स्ट्रोक हिज स्वार्ड एट चोबार, which helped people to reside in Kathmandu Valley later on. Kathmandu Valley ke thiyo covered with water, it was a lake, and later it was Manjushri who stroke with his sword and make the water go away from the Kathmandu Valley or the lake. Then the people started residing in the Kathmandu Valley. Then he talks about the Samek gates of the seven-headed monks. केही monksहरू र nunsहरू हुन्छन्, बुद्धिस्टहरू, who were receiving alms, भिक्षाहरू दिइरहेका हुन्छन्, and spreading Buddhist preachings near the caste mandap representing purity. Then they discuss about these things as well. Then they talk about carving wooden image. अब कसरी कुदिएका बनेका त्यो यस काठको उसका काठका इमेजहरू, नेपालीज folk music, नेपाली कल्चर संस्कृतिहरू, लोक म्युजिक्सहरू, different cultures and such as Aryans, no Aryans, Hindus, Buddhists, and drinking wine. The guest thanks the guide for providing him Nepali and Nemari food. After that, they discuss about the life and history of Princess Birikuti and King Anshubarma and how King flourished his relationship with his neighboring country. कसरी किङले के गरेको थियो त, आफ्नो रिलेसन छिमेकी मुलुकहरूमा भ्रिकुटीलाई पठाएर अथवा के गर्यो तिब्बतसँग कायम गरेको थियो. It is a story projected in the picture where as told by an old man to his grandson. यो के हुन्छ, एउटा पिक्चरमा तिनीहरूले देख्छन् and they discuss about this. The guest is very happy from the welcome smile. Guest अर्को के हुन्छ त, as he sees to the Nepalese people, they were smiling and they were welcoming, and this welcome smile makes the guest very much delighted. उसलाई एकदम खुसी बनाउँछ. He receives wherever he goes, comparing it to the farmer's son returning home from the hard work. ले के गर्छ, त्यो गेस्टले जो स्माइल पाएको हुन्छ त्यो केसँग कम्पेयर गर्छ, with a farmer's son who comes from the farm is working very hard and the family members receives him with polite or hospitality behaviors. They have one more drinks for the sweet smile of the Nepalese people. Drinks pani khaन्छन्. Then they discuss about several sorts of eyes, such as the eyes of windows, eyes on the door panels, eyes on the stupas, eyes of the people, eyes of the Himalayas, and the half-closed eyes of the Lord Buddha, associating the country as the land of eyes. Essentially, by presenting several sorts of eyes, the author tried to make us aware of that the country Nepal is a land of eyes. And these eyes display, your eyes के गर्छन् त, display, reflect a new culture, richness of religion, civilization, unforgettable memories, and long-lasting journey. It teaches people so many things regarding Nepalese art, culture, and even its people, many more. The guide talks about the temple of Adinath. त्यसपछि ती गाइडले के गर्छ आदिनाथ टेम्पलको बारेमा डिल गर्छ. The shrine of Shiva, शिवको मन्दिर surrounded with several other images of Buddha. A living example of Nepalese tolerance and coexistence. But the guide doesn't take the guest there. त्यहाँ लिएर जाँदैनन्. Only they discuss about it. To a house. Rather, the guide takes the tourist to a house where he finds the pulse of reality, वास्तविक reality उदेखि गर्छ, feel गर्छ. It is a farmer's family with a paralyzed child. एउटा बच्चा हुन्छ जो पोलियो अट्याकबाट paralyzed भएको हुन्छ, whose whole body is useless as he cannot speak, move his hand, chew his food, केही पनि गर्न सक्दैन, or even speak, except his eyes just opposite to his sister. तर उसको सिस्टरले सबै कुरा गर्न सक्छिन्, but he can't. The parents is becomes very happy to the guest as the guide presents him as a doctor. उसले के भन्छ गाइडले गेस्टलाई डाक्टरको रूपमा प्रेजेन्ट गरेको हुन्छ and the family members is very much happy. They even welcome the guest thinking him as a doctor. They have deep of faith, intimacy, kindness, and gratitude in their eyes. They are hopeful. They think that their child may be well. Yes? Finally, the guide further says that these are the eyes surrounded by mountains. Their laces are the rows of fields where rice ripens in the rains and wheat ripens in the winter. They are just as beautiful as setting sun's reflection in the eyes of the Buddha. So this is about the summary. Yes? And then is we will see the visual summary. And I present this one to this grasp the is visual representation of the story. Very first one we find there are two tourist guide and a foreigners. And is they see the Kathmandu Valley. They visualize the Kathmandu Valley. Then they talk about several is Bhagavad Puran is religious sculptures is Grantharu and even several is ivory ornaments as well as then the Tampatrako कुरा गर्छन्. How Manjushri, this figure very clearly project how Manjushri is struck by his is sword and makes the waters of the Kathmandu Valley go away from that. Then the people of is Kathmandu Valley started reciting there. Then we talks about the even temples as well as even we find here is the Chobar temple. Chobaरमा बनेको एउटा temple situated छ and this is monks and the nuns taking arms and showing the preachings तिनीहरूले पिचिङहरू दिइरहेको धार्मिक स्पिचहरू दिइरहेको भिक्षाहरू दिइरहेको सिन देखाउँछ. Then it talks about the Newari foods and Nepali food is and several is folk musical instruments and cultures. Then we talks about the even Ansu Verma and Brikuti. If these figures are also discussed by the writer, this figure represents the welcome smile of Nepalese people as the guest visit to any houses or anywhere. Then the eyes in the window panels is eyes in of the Himalayas, eyes in the is even stupas is and half closed eyes of Gautam Buddha. And even this is Adinath temple of is Mahadev. Then they visit to a simple Nepalese family house where they find the son of the farmer is paralyzed and but the daughter is very well as she is completely as she is just opposite of the son. Then the writer also finally discuss about the setting sun or sinking sun, slowly sinking sun and half closed eyes of Gautam Buddha. So these visual summary helps the readers, all of you, to grasp the ideas is in reality. Then you will see the symbolism. As we see the text, we find there are some symbols is used in this story. The first one is the title itself. Title, the half closed eyes of the Buddha and slowly sinking sun. What does this mean? Here, the half closed eyes of Buddha state is a state of meditation, looking inward and outward self. The half closed eyes of Buddha reflect that is it reflects about meditation, looking inward and outward self. The second one is the farmer's family. The farmer's family represent, it indicates the Nepalese faith, Nepalese intimacy, kindness, gratitude in the doctor. They believe that the doctor is the second God. Third one, the paralyzed boy. He represents that children in the remote areas are still victim of the diseases like polio. Yes, they have not many more facilities like the people in the city areas. The tourist, he represents the feeling of superiority in the Westerners. And the guide, he represents the concept of inferiority and the helpfulness even is in the Nepalese people and even the hospitality behaviors as well. So these are the symbols. We find several sorts of ornaments as well in the story and many more as well. Is then about the glossaries is some of the glossaries mentioned in our text are four passes, the older name of Kathmandu Valley, Bhanjang in Nepali, adrift, a boat moving on the water uncontrolled, multifarious, many and of various types, Adinath, a name of Lord Shiva, conventional, traditional, and horizon skyline manuscript typed or printed or scripted document यस कुँदिएको डकुमेन्टहरू इन्चान्टमेन्ट a feeling of great pleasures delight obliged force or compelled peep भनेको look quickly spy जासुसी गर्नु incarnation a person who embodies in the flesh a deity yes or spirit accumulates भनेको gather together so these are the glossary terms. Then we talks about this questions. Understanding the text. Question A. How does the tourist describe his initial impression of Kathmandu Valley? टुरिस्टले आफ्नो जो इनिसियल सुरुवातको इम्प्रेसन प्रभाव काठमाडौँ भ्याली प्रति कस्तो देखाउँछ? The tourist describes his initial impression of Kathmandu Valley saying that the valley looks green in color with its geometrical field earthen houses of red, yellow, and white of different colors, the scent of soil, and the mountains in the atmosphere. He is very much delighted by the atmospheric condition of the Kathmandu Valley. The question B, according to the tourist, why is the West indebted to the East? वेस्टहरू किन इस्टप्रति ऋणी छन् indebted छन् According to the tourist, the West is indebted to the East for the peaceful atmosphere, religious and cultural sculptures, ग्रन्थहरू, पुराण, such as ornaments of ivory, manuscript is Pandolipi in the palm leaves, inscription of copper plate, ancient tools, ancient events, musical instruments, cultures, and many more. So these are the things for which the Westerners are indebted to the East. This question C. How does the tourist interpret the gaze of the monks and the nuns? Monks र nunsहरूको दृष्टिलाई कसरी टुरिस्टले इन्टरप्रेट गर्छ The tourist interprets the gaze of the monks and nuns as the Samic gaze, which means perception, concept, pure and without contamination. एकदमै प्योर दृष्टिको कुरा गर्छ. Sight that perceives everything in true form, in pure form. Then question D. Why do the tourists think Nepali people are wonderful and exceptional? किन टुरिस्टले सोच्छ नेपाली पिपलहरू वन्डरफुल र एक्सेप्सनल छन् Tourists think Nepali people are wonderful and exceptional because they are able to make exceptional wooden image काठका इमेजहरू बनाउँछन् multifarious बहुविधको ornamentations विभिन्न किसिमका गहनाहरू beautiful images of deities देवी देवताको एकदम राम्रा मूर्तिहरू enchanting musics from the traditional musical instruments परम्परागत त्यो यस म्युजिकल इन्स्ट्रुमेन्ट्सहरूबाट राम्रो के गर्छन् म्युजिक प्रड्युस गर्छन् दे सो हस्पिटेबल बिहेभियर्स with diverse culture and religious ceremonies and this question is important as well this question number D yes so after that we will see question E so about question E what are the different kind of communities in the Kathmandu valleys and how do they coexist with each other so answer is the different kind of communities found in Kathmandu valleys are Aryans, non-Aryans, Hindus, Buddhists, and when we find Islam is Christians, and they coexist with each other in harmony. Harmony ma बसेका हुन्छन् समाजमा. And question this F. What does the tourist feel about the temple of Adinath? Tourists feel about the temple of Adinath as the living example of Nepalese tolerance and coexistence. Question G. Why does the guide take the tourist to the remote village? The guide takes the tourist to the remote village to show the pulse of reality. वास्तविक reality देखाउनको लागि is that how the people are living in the remote areas by the help of a farmer's family and their hard labor, pollution-free environment and their miserable lives. Question 8. What does the innocent village couple think of the doctor? त्यो गाउँका innocent village कपलहरू डाक्टरको बारेमा के सोच्छन्? The innocent village people takes the doctor as the rays of hope for the life or the second God. Question I. What are the differences between the paralyzed child and his sister? दुईटाको बीचमा के फरक पाउँछौँ? The differences between the paralyzed child and his sister are the former भनेको child. Whole body is useless. He can't speak, nor he crawl. Only his eyes are the living part of his body. But the later one भनेको sister को whole body functions properly. She can speak, crawl and move her body freely. Question D. Why does the guide show the instances of poverty to the tourist? गाइडले पोभर्टीको इन्स्टान्सेसहरू किन देखाउँछन् टुरिस्टलाई? The guide shows the instances of poverty to the tourist so that he knows the real grim poverty of the people living in remote areas, their lack of insecurity, lack of modern facilities, and even in hospitable behaviors as well. So then is a reference to the context. Next question Jaru. We will see them. The question A. Which techniques is used by the authors to tell the story? authorले कुन techniques use गरेका छन् story भन्नको लागि? How is this story different from the other stories you have read? The writer is use the technique stream of consciousness जसलाई हामीले we call it चेतनाको धारा as a narrative techniques used by the author Shankar Lamichhane to tell the story the half closed eyes of the Buddha and the slowly sinking sun. This story is different from the other stories I have read, as the most of the other stories are depicted from the first person point of view, where the narrator and the persona describe the instances in his own way. But this story is presented through the monologues. तर यो स्टोरी के छ मनोवादको रूपमा युज गरिएको छ. दुईटा क्यारेक्टर्सहरूको कुराकानी मनोवाद जे सोचेका हुन्छन् त्यो थिंकिङलाई पनि प्रेजेन्ट गरिएको छ. A tourist guide in Kathmandu Valley and a foreign tourist. Furthermore, the stories from different from conventional stories, जो परम्परागत स्टोरी भन्दा फरक छ. Instead of showing the action and event, the story records is what the two characters thinks in a stream of consciousness techniques. Here, stream of consciousness techniques, यो style भनेको के हो त? Of writing, the captures natural flow of the characters' extended thought process and often by incorporating सेन्सरी इम्प्रेसन्स उनको दिमागमा भएका इम्प्रेसन्सहरूलाई पनि यसले रेकर्ड गर्छ. मेमोरिज, इनकम्प्लिट आइडियाज, अनयुजुअल सिन्ट्याक्स सेन्टेन्सहरू पनि के गर्ने नमिलेको एन्ड रफ ग्रामर. अन द अदर ह्यान्ड दिस टेक्निक्स अफ स्ट्रीम अफ कन्सियसनेस इज नट found in other previous stories I have read, and therefore we can say that this story is different from the other stories presented in our textbooks. Question B. How is the author able to integrate two fragments of narration into a unified whole? दुईवटा फरक खालका fragment of narrationsहरू like कसरी उनले unified गरेका छन्? So in the story, the half-closed eyes of Buddha and the slowly sinking sun, the author tries to integrate two fragments of the narration into a unified whole by connecting them with the instances of eyes and associating them with two different words, sansarसँग. One, the author is describing the instances taking places in the community and activities of the people they perform for their livelihoods. On the other hand, it reconnects it to the word of the farmer, where how people are ignorant of real instances of the word and suffer from several traditional thoughts and diseases. Thus, by connecting to different words and thoughts of the east and west, he forwards a message that one should visualize things deeply through their deeper eyes, understandings the real meaning of this situation. He associates the guide's journey along with the tourist and observing the things on the one hand, and guides is stating the significance of the places and activities on the other. By instances of eyes and his narrative techniques of stream of consciousness use गरेर he reconnects these two sort of fragments. Question number C. The author brings some historical and legendary references in the story. Collect these references and show their significance in the story. अथरले के गरेका छन् हिस्टोरिकल एन्ड लिजेन्डरी रेफरेन्सेसहरू मेन्सन्स गरेका छन् त्यो स्ट्यान्सेसहरू त्यो इक्जाम्पल्सहरू त्यो रेफरेन्सहरूलाई प्रेजेन्ट गर भने चाहिँ द एन्सर इज द अथर शङ्कर लामिछाने brings some historical and legendary references in the story the half closed eyes of the Buddha and slowly sinking sun and the references and their significance are as follows. The very first reference of Manjushri and her strike with his sword at Sobar, resulting the overflow of the Bagmati river signifies her contribution in helping people to live in the Kathmandu Valley. उनले के गरे त्यो आफ्नो स्वाडले सोबारको ठाउँमा के गरे त काटे यस डाँडालाई काटेपछि पानी बाहिर गयो and people started residing in the अथवा Kathmandu Valley. The second reference of Purans, images of brass, ornaments of ivory, manuscripts of palm trees, and inscriptions on the copper plates indicate Nepalese people are rich in culture, traditions, religions, arts, and craft. Then the third one, the eyes of the seven-headed monks and the nuns indicate the Samic eye gaze, which means perception, pure eyes without contamination, बिना फोहोरको is sight that perceives everything in it true or pure form. True eyes, pure eyes, true दृष्टिलाई यसले के गर्छ साइट्सलाई मेन्सन्स गर्छ. And this questions the next point, the reference of Princess Briguti and King Anshubarma दुईजनाको यस लिजेन्ड्रीहरूको रेफरेन्सेस दिएको छ. Reflect historical connection and relationship among the neighboring countries like Tibet. Then the next one, the pleasant light of sunset reflected in the eyes of Buddha indicate Nepal as a country of Buddha with many more hopes and peaceful thoughts in the people. And the final, the last one, the temple of Adinath signifies the living example of Nepalese tolerance and coexistence. So these are the instances we find in the story of historical and legendary references. Question D. The author talks about the eyes in many places. The eyes of seven monks and nuns, the eyes in the windows and door panels, the eyes of the Himalayas, the eyes of the paralyzed boy, the eyes of the welcoming villagers, and above all, half-closed eyes of the Buddha. Explain how all the instances of eyes contribute to overall unity of the story. So the answer is, in the story, the half-closed eyes of the Buddha and the slowly sinking sun, the author talks about the eyes in the many places, such as the eyes of seven monks and nuns, indicating Samic eyes, which means the sight that perceives everything in its true or pure form. The eyes of the carved lattice, जालीमा अथवा त्यो झालको जालीबाट देखिने आइजहरू. Eyes painted on the door panels, eyes on the stupas, eyes of the people, eyes of the Himalayas, eyes of the paralyzed boy, and eyes of the welcoming villagers. Above all, half-closed eyes of Buddha. Several sorts of eyes are presented in our stories, and these all instances of eyes indicate that Nepal is a land of eyes, a land of hope, a land of purity, a land of mixed culture, a land guarded by half-closed eyes of Lord Buddha. Even if all of the world's history books were destroyed today, but it is these eyes which displays a new culture, civilization, religion, natural beauty, and many more over the land of Buddha. The journey becomes meaningful by the memories obtained by these eyes. मान्छेको लाइफको जर्नी के हुन्छ कम्प्लिट हुन्छ. In this way, the author associates several instances of eyes to the memories that people obtain and people's appetite that never fulfills as they visualize something by their inner eyes. यदि मान्छेले कुनै पनि चिज के गर्छन् भित्री आइजले के गर्छन् भिजुअलाइज गर्छन् भने their desire never fulfills. They will learn many more in their lives. Then the S, a reference beyond the text. So the question is, write an essay on living proximity to nature. भनेको living with nature, nature को relation मा बस्ने. As we know very well that there is very close connection between life, human beings as well as nature. As human beings can't survive without nature. So the answer is living proximity to nature and essay. Nature is made up of everything we see around us: the trees, the flowers, the plants, the animals, sky, mountains, forest, and many more. Human beings depends on nature for several reasons, especially to stay alive. बाँच्नको लागि उनीहरू depend हुन्छन्. Nature help us to breathe, give us food, water, shelter, medicines, and clothes. It is the different colors of nature which makes the earth catchy and attractive, beautiful. एकदमै beautiful बनाउँछ. Nature comprises of everything which besieges us like air, water, animals, sun, and moon. Nature is full of colors, has both living and non-living things in its lap. Animals, fish, insects also get their food and shelter from the nature. Nature is very important, very significant to maintain the growth and balance of the life on the earth. People's connection to the nature is almost inseparable, as it is the best place to reside for them, and it is hardly impossible, लगभग असंभव छ, to live on the world without nature. It provides different form of energy, organic agricultures, and so on. It is needless to say that we should support people in reducing natural damage, reusing goods, and recycling used elements in a newer forms. People from all parts of the world should come together to lessen the pressure on the earth and restore balance. Thus, we can say that nature and human life is closely connected, interrelated. So, these figures also clearly interconnects how human being enjoy, how human being is interconnected with the nature. Is very beautifully presented. So okay, is this is about the chapter The Half Closed Eyes of the Buddha and the Slowly Sinking Sun by Shankar Lamichhane. If you find this video interesting and helpful, like the video, share it, subscribe it, click on the bell icons to get notification for upcoming videos. If any queries, mention below in the comment section below. Thank you everybody. Goodbye. Have a good day.